The bridge of the Verdict Eternal, flagship of the Zoral Dominion's expansion armada, buzzed with the low mechanical hum of systems calibrated to extinguish resistance. Gleaming walls pulsed with ambient blue light as the stars outside stood in eerie silence. Supreme Exarch Goreth the Efficient, a 9-foot crustacean hybrid in ceremonial armor polished with the minerals of fallen worlds, loomed over the main viewport. His 4 obsidian eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture that meant delight in Zoral culture and get ready to oppress something. Before him hung Dirtball 3, the locals called it Earth, a lush blue-green orb smeared with cloud systems, spinning ignorantly in the void. How quaint, Goreth chittered, mandibles flexing. Another waterlogged breeding rock with a hormonal species still arguing about whether pants require zippers. His second-in-command, subjugation strategist Yulkara, slithered up behind him. Her exoshell glittered under ultraviolet lighting. Resource analysis confirms the presence of QX, 9 isotope in concentrations surpassing even the Grawl mining moons. Supreme Exarch, enough to power the Dominion for 1,000 cycles. Goreth gave a gurgling laugh, a sound like someone shoving silverware into a garbage disposal. A muddy pebble crawling with pre-war bipeds has what we need. And what do they have in defense? Yulkara consulted her data slate. Their civilization has achieved basic orbital movement. 1 moon landing, no warp drives, no graviton weaponry. They have nuclear missiles and submarines with too many people on board. Adorable, Goreth muttered. Do they at least have planetary shields? Negative, sir. Their most advanced defense infrastructure appears to be weather satellites. And 1 space telescope that can barely resolve Pluto. Goreth snorted. Another record-breaking embarrassment. Strategist, prepare the standard transmission. Protocol P-12. Yulkara raised a claw. With respect, sir, there's an anomaly. This species invests an unusual percentage of its global economy in warfare. Historical records show continual conflict even among its own tribes. Centuries of sustained combat. Goreth blinked. Let me understand this. They fight themselves? Constantly. Do they at least win? Unclear. Victories seem symbolic. Many wars ended without changes to borders, but with massive casualties and celebratory fireworks. Fireworks? Goreth clicked in bemusement. What primitive idiocy. Still, send the message. Yulkara nodded and turned to the communications officer, Thresk, a spindly technician whose job required the spine of a jellyfish and the vocabulary of a legal document. Thresk activated the protocol, transmitting Galactic standard ultimatum in local frequency range 450 MHz. Message: We are the Zoral Dominion. You are in violation of mineral sovereignty codes. Surrender and avoid obliteration. A pause. They're responding, Thresk said, incredulous. Goreth turned to the screen, expecting static or perhaps a religious idol waving a bone. Instead, a human appeared. A female one, in a dark blue uniform. Behind her, screen showed command staff bustling with activity. She was pale, tired, and very clearly not impressed. This is Admiral Samantha Wren of the Earth United Defense Command, she said. Unidentified vessel. You have entered restricted orbital space. State your intentions or risk hostile response. Goreth leaned back, amused. They talk. How novel. Respond, he told Thresk. Give them the full Dominion protocol. All the big, scary titles. Thresk nodded. Transmitting now. Attention inhabitants of Dirtball 3. We are the Zoral Dominion, masters of 8 galactic sectors and 63 subdued civilizations. Your planet contains resources vital to our expansion. You will surrender within 6 planetary cycles or face destruction. The humans received it, and, true to form, they didn't say anything for exactly 3 minutes. Long enough for the bridge crew of the Verdict Eternal to assume they were busy panic-breathing into paper bags. Then Wren came back. You have our attention, she said. Goreth chuckled. Prepare the fleet. They're going to be adorable about this. Elsewhere, on Earth, by the time Goreth's fleet finished the Dominion's customary orbiting intimidation dance, 2 clockwise laps, one firing demonstration into the Pacific Ocean. Something odd was already happening. Earth had unified. It took 48 hours. The UN, NATO, BRICS, ASEAN, the EU, the G7, and several Reddit subforums all agreed. Earth was not going down like Alderaan 2.0. Factories in Detroit were making missiles again. Japan converted a car factory into a drone swarm hub. India began repurposing weather satellites for weapon targeting. The French mobilized. The Swiss actually admitted they had a military. More alarmingly, Earth's scientific community had deciphered Zoral scan signatures and began data mining the aliens' own sensor sweeps. Ren, now promoted to acting Grand Marshal of Unified Earth Forces, a title invented just minutes earlier, stared at her staff across a buzzing global command room. Status? We're building rail cannons from the remains of SpaceX prototypes. Anything on their fleet composition? They've got energy shields, sir, but they overheat. Ren smiled. So we cook them. Back on the verdict eternal. They've unified, Yulkara reported flatly. Gorith blinked. They what? Planetary unity achieved in under 50 hours. 200 nation-states functioning under a single military command structure. They call it the Earth Defense Coalition. Lies, Gorith growled. It took us 4 centuries to unify Sector 3. They did it over Zoom, Yulkara muttered. Gorith clenched a pincer. Fine. It's a last stand. Let them gather. We'll crush them all at once. Yulkara hesitated. Sir, we intercepted their latest transmission. Put on screen. It was Admiral Ren again. Only this time, she wasn't in a small command room. She was in the command room, a sprawling digital war chamber with humans from every continent behind her. Zoral Dominion, she said. We've reviewed your offer of surrender. Here is our response. The feed split. One screen showed New York converting garbage trucks into armored carriers. Another, Russia launching repurposed ICBMs into orbit with payloads no human had ever tested before. China's satellites moved into attack formations. Kenya announced it was launching its first orbital rail cannon out of spite. Australia offered its spiders as shock troops. We are not new to war, Ren said coldly. We're new to agreeing on things. But you just became that thing. Gorith leaned forward, suddenly very aware that his claws were shaking. By day 3 of Operation Wave and Conquer, Supreme XR Gorith was experiencing something deeply alien to him. Concern. Not that he'd admit it, of course. He was Zoral, damn it. Descended from a long line of tyrants, resource thieves, and proud obliterators of the weak. And yet, the weak weren't playing by the rules. They're not supposed to adapt, he growled, voice crackling over the bridge of the verdict eternal. The protocol is simple. Threat. Panic. Surrender. You don't get project rapid lunar militarization in that sequence. Strategist Yulkara looked up from her station, all 4 arms typing furiously. Sir, they've repurposed their orbital junkyard. Repurposed? They've converted old satellites, defunct weather stations, and at least 2 modular space hotels into weapons platforms. And they've built a railgun on their moon. Gorith froze. With what materials? They cannibalized their International Space Station. Apparently, cooperation increases when everyone thinks they're going to die. Gorith muttered something unprintable in Zorlish. Meanwhile on Earth, the Unified Earth Defense Coalition wasn't just building weapons, they were doing it with glee. Engineers who had once designed vending machines and bridge overpasses were now plotting how to take down interstellar dreadnoughts with garage materials. A former theme park ride designer from Florida figured out how to repurpose a roller coaster's magnetic track system into a railgun. NASA scientists politely asked him to tone it down. He did not. Back on the Zoral flagship. Their message has changed, said Communications Officer Thresk, antennae twitching in a way that would normally mean he needed a bathroom break. Put through, Gorith ordered. Admiral Samantha Wren appeared again. Still human. Still alive. Still infuriating. You told us we had 6 days, she said. You should have attacked immediately. Then she smiled. Not the kind of we surrender smile Zoral commanders expected, but the I just filed your spine under miscellaneous kind of smile. Big mistake, she added, as screens behind her showed an orbital nuke being manually guided into a geosynchronous path by a team of engineers using literal game controllers. Gorith, growing impatient, ordered the first wave to begin. 30 Dominion destroyers moved into attack formation over the Western Hemisphere. Their orders: fire a few warning shots, destroy Earth's rudimentary defense satellites, and show these bipeds what a real civilization looks like. They never made it to Phase 2. Act 1. The EMP slap. Before the Zoral weapons could charge, Earth launched dozens of nuclear missiles. Not at the ships, but near them. Are they missing on purpose? Gorith asked. No, sir, said Yulkura, eyes widening. They're triggering electromagnetic pulses. Smart ones. Targeted. Within seconds, half the Zoral ships stuttered to a halt mid-space. Their shields flickered. Weapons systems reset. Zoral officers screamed in confusion. Act 2. Slugfest in orbit. Then came the slugs. Kinetic rounds, literal hunks of iron, titanium, and tungsten, fired at ungodly speeds from Earth's new lunar railgun. No energy signature. No heat trail. Just pure, medieval chaos accelerated to relativistic velocity. 7 Zoral ships were torn in half before anyone could shout trajectory recalibration. They're using metal rods? Gorith bellowed. This is a space war, not a cave skirmish. Yes, and they're winning, Yulkara said grimly. Act 3. The laser surprise. Several Zoral ships tried to retreat behind the planet's dark side. That's when Earth turned on lasers. Earth didn't have laser weapons until 36 hours ago, but apparently a team of physicists, garage tinkerers, and one particularly angry MIT dropout figured it out. They were mounted on retrofitted communication arrays. Not powerful enough to destroy a ship, but definitely enough to blind Zoral sensors and disable secondary power systems. 9 more ships down, Thresk reported. They're aiming at thermal vents and shield relays. They must have studied our schematics. Gorith's mandibles clicked together so hard they chipped. How? We've only been here 3 days. Yulkara turned her display. They hacked our scanning beams. They used our surveillance to analyze us. They figured out which parts of the ship glow when charged, and then started aiming at the glowiest bits. I'm going to eat one of them, Gorith muttered. Just when things couldn't get worse, they did. Alerts blared across the verdict eternal. Warning. Unauthorized transport signals detected. Breach. Deck 17. Bulkhead compromised. Species. Human. Quantity. Uncomfortably high. How are they boarding us? Gorith screamed. Our shields are up. They piggybacked on our supply drones, Yulkara whispered, stunned. They figured out the transporters were recalibrated to allow resupply and slipped in using cloned return signals. In space pajamas? The view screen showed helmeted humans in patched-together space suits using Zoral oxygen tubes like swing ropes. One had taped a Zoral severed claw to his shoulder like a trophy. Another was eating a protein bar mid-firefight. A voice came over the Dominion fleet-wide emergency channel. Human, male, confident, and dripping with that most terrifying substance in the galaxy. Sarcasm. This is General Marcus Reed of the Earth Defense Force. Quick update. You brought warships, we brought inspiration and caffeine. We've repurposed 3 of your destroyers already. By this time tomorrow, we'll be driving one of your flagships like a party bus. Thanks for the tech. There was a long pause. Then he added, oh, and by the way, your encryption sucks. We cracked it in 20 minutes. Real stylish code, though. My compliments to the intern. On the bridge of the verdict eternal, Gorith finally understood. This isn't a war, he said, voice trembling. No, sir, Yulkara agreed. This is a group project, and humanity just found their motivation. Launch everything. Gorith howled. All remaining ships. Target their command centers, their moon gun, their morale. I don't care. Thresk cleared his throat. Sir, sensors indicate another 20 human ships just launched from Earth. Warships? Not exactly. Civilian spacecraft. Retrofitted. They're flying IKEA satellites duct-taped to old booster stages and somehow launching kinetic rounds. It's chaos. Gorith fell into his command throne. They're throwing furniture at us? Yes, and it's working. The Zoral Dominion came expecting a ritual slaughter of primitive apes. What they got was crowd-funded orbital warfare, conducted by a species that turns video games into training simulators, sledgehammers into policy tools, and spite into propulsion. They thought Earth had 6 days. Earth only needed 3. And the Zoral were now part of a very painful lesson. Never give humanity time, data, and a shared enemy, because they will build weapons, jokes, and monuments on your corpse simultaneously. It was day 4 of what the Zoral Dominion's high command still insisted on calling a minor extraction hiccup. But on the bridge of the verdict eternal, Supreme XR Gorath had long since stopped believing in euphemisms, especially when the reality involved orbital defeat, reverse-engineered tech, and a species whose primary combat doctrine seemed to be whatever makes the enemy panic the hardest. The first wave had failed, catastrophically. The second was being retrofitted cautiously. Gorath's mandibles twitched every time someone said the word human. He turned toward strategist Yulkara. Status of our remaining forces? We still have 14 destroyers operational, she replied. But morale is, well, we're circulating inspirational poetry over intercom now. Doesn't seem to be working. You wrote the poems. I was told to motivate, not rhyme. Across the deck, communications officer Thresk squawked. Incoming transmission. Human frequency. They're taunting us, sir. Put it through, Gorath snapped. A video feed crackled to life. General Marcus Reed of the Earth Defense Force stood in front of a tactical display that appeared to have been built inside one of their ships. Behind him, rows of humans in combat armor painted with Zoral colors, helmets forged from the plating of downed Dominion cruisers. Hey, bud boys, Reed said cheerfully. Thanks for the hardware. We've made a few modifications. For example, your shield emitters work much better when you stop routing them through 6 redundant cooling units and just let them breathe. Gorath blinked, confused. Why would they do that? Our design philosophy emphasizes. They put fins on it, Yulkara whispered, horrified. Aerodynamic fins. In space. Back on Earth, humanity had set up conversion zones. These were places where wrecked Zoral ships were dragged, stripped, analyzed, cursed at, and reassembled with all the fury of 1,000 sleep-deprived engineers armed with duct tape and sheer willpower. What took the Zoral Dominion 5 centuries to develop, humans had reduced to a crash course in creative misuse. Warp drives? Rewired into gravity slingshots that allowed ships to stagger step across star lanes unpredictably. Cloaking fields? Augmented with mirrored solar panels to reflect not just light, but thermal signatures. Communication systems? Rerouted into loudspeakers that blared old rock music into the void. Loudly. One transmission intercepted by the Zoral fleet consisted entirely of Earth's ships broadcasting highway to hell while approaching at maximum burn. They turned our flagship frequency array into a Bluetooth speaker. Thresk whispered in awe. They're communing through rage and irony, Yulkara added. This is unprecedented. And then there was the lunar railgun, officially named the Lunar Orbital Strategic Impact Repeater. Unofficially, humans called it Big Bertha's bigger cousin. Engineers from 6 nations had collaborated on it. It fired tungsten rods the size of school buses at near-relativistic speeds. On day 4, it hit its 12th target, a stealth Zoral command vessel attempting to flank Earth's Pacific defenses. There were no warning shots, no broadcasts, just a blur, a burst, and a long, echoing silence. Impact confirmed, a human tech announced calmly. Ship converted to mist. Gorath screamed across the command deck. You told me they weren't warp-capable. They're still not, sir, Yulkara said, blinking rapidly. They've simply decided to ignore physics instead. Then it got worse. Human ships began launching. From Earth. From orbit. From the surface of the moon. Somehow. Crude at first, salvaged Zoral wreckage welded to human aerospace frames. But then came the purpose-built ones. Angular, brutalist monstrosities that ignored all principles of design elegance in favor of how many guns can we fit on this thing before it tips over. The humans called the fleet the Ugly 67. Because, as it turned out, when you build for raw function instead of aesthetics, you end up with spaceships that look like angry filing cabinets. and they absolutely terrified the Zoral. "They're flying bricks," Yulkara whispered. "They're bricks with attitude," Thresk added. One human vessel flew past the Dominion formation painted entirely in neon pink. Its call sign was Disrespect Bus. It took out 2 Zoral cruisers before anyone stopped laughing long enough to shoot back. At Dominion High Command back in the Craxus sector, the Grand Conclave began to notice the tone of Zoral transmissions shifting from conquest to mild panic. Requests for reinforcements were peppered with phrases like unexpected resistance, advanced improvisation tactics, and, most chillingly, the humans keep laughing. Gorth's latest field report included a diagram labeled projected rate of human adaptation, followed by a single sentence. "In 2 weeks, they will be us, but meaner." To make matters worse, the humans had begun weaponizing information. The Zoral had assumed their scanning beams were undetectable. They were wrong. Not only had Earth detected them, they had reflected them back, collecting data on the data collectors. By day 5, Earth had identified weak spots in Zoral hull integrity, thermal inefficiencies in their cloaking systems, the Dominion fleet's fleet-wide reset code for internal diagnostics, which they tested publicly. It worked. "This species is cyberstalking us in real time," Yulkara said, flipping through intercepted messages. "They've published memes, sir." One such meme showed a picture of a Zoral destroyer with the caption, "Alien tech, 5,000 years of advancement." Human response, "Have you tried turning it off and back on again?" Then it happened. Earth hacked into the Dominion's fleet-wide comms. They didn't just listen, they spoke. Live, bold, and with all the subtlety of a brick to the mandibles. Admiral Wren's voice echoed across every Dominion vessel. "You came expecting sheep. You found wolves. And every time you fire, we learn more. Every ship you lose makes our stronger. You brought tech. We brought history. Let's see who runs out first." There was a pause. Then she added, casually, "By the way, we cracked your encryption 72 hours ago. Your password was literally Dominion 123. Yulkara turned to Gorth. "I think we've made a terrible mistake." Gorth stared into space, expression vacant. "They're improving faster than we can update our defense protocols," he said finally. "They're not playing a game of war. They're playing a game of spite-fueled evolution." The Zoral Dominion expected resistance. They planned for rebellion. They even tolerated stubbornness. What they were not prepared for was a global species-wide grudge match, weaponized irony, and humans piloting ugly murder boxes built out of their enemies' corpses. Humanity wasn't adapting. They were speedrunning vengeance. And the galaxy was about to get patched. Earth-style. 3 months later, the Dominion fleet was gone. Most of it anyway. The few remaining vessels had either gone dark, defected, or worse, been painted in gaudy neon colors and given call signs like the Diplomacy Stick or USS Spicy Apology. The planet formerly known to the Zoral as Dirtball 3 was no longer the target of an invasion. It was the launch point of one. Admiral Samantha Wren was war criminal, according to some, and galactic problem solver, according to herself. The bridge of the UES Retribution, formerly the Zoral destroyer Merciless Victory, was now a glorious mess of coffee-stained consoles, handwritten posted instructions, and high-tech HUD salvage from a dozen different Dominion vessels. The chairs have been replaced with ergonomic swivel seats. There was a potted plant in the corner named Steve. Admiral Wren stood at the center of it all, calmly reviewing the final fleet readiness report from Colonel Hiroshi Tanaka, a man who once led Earth's orbital defense simulations and now managed logistics for 67 warships, a fleet that hadn't existed 3 months ago. "All ships report green," Tanaka said, eyes slightly bloodshot. "Weapon calibration is stable, shield matrix synchronized. Dr. Patel confirms translation matrix is fully operational. We can now read, intercept, and ruin their day in 9 languages." "And the new vessels?" Wren asked. 10 built from scratch using Dominion tech. Hulls reinforced. Hybrid reactors. Fully modular. Names? Tanaka didn't flinch. UES Consequences. UES Audacity. UES Oh No You Didn't. And UES Patrick. Why Patrick? No idea, ma'am. There was a naming raffle. A kindergarten one. Ren sighed. Perfect. On the Dominion homeworld Crax Magna, the Grand Council had spent the last 3 months doing what authoritarian regimes do best when faced with a crisis: arguing. 7 supreme commanders, each representing a subjugated sector, sat on floating thrones in a vast obsidian chamber lit by pulsing blue bioluminescence and enormous, glowing statues of themselves. Because modesty was for the conquered, Supreme Commander Dravik was the loudest of them all. "You lost an entire fleet," he said, practically spitting the words at Exarch Gorith, who stood in disgrace at the foot of the dais. "To a bunch of hairless mammals, with no interstellar capabilities. We conquered the Tar Hive worlds in under a week." Gorith, no longer in full ceremonial armor, but still upright, responded calmly. The Tar didn't broadcast TikToks of their counterattacks. The humans live-streamed their railgun kill shots. Dravik bristled. "They made memes out of our military losses." "Yes," said Gorith, "and they were brutal." Back aboard the Retribution, Ren paced before the assembled officers and scientists. Earth's best and brightest, plus 3 civilians who refused to leave once the war started and now manage fleet morale through aggressive team-making and emotional sarcasm. 3 months ago, they came to our home, Ren began. They threatened us, mocked us, underestimated us. She tapped the tactical display, showing the Dominion's home sectors lit up like a Christmas tree. "Today, we return the favor. This is Operation Pushback. We are not here to conquer. We are here to ensure they never threaten us again." She activated fleet-wide comms. "All ships, this is Admiral Ren. We're done being the footnotes in someone else's empire. Let's go rewrite the damn chapter." The humans moved fast. Too fast. Zoral sensors designed to detect traditional warp trails couldn't track the hybrid drives the humans now used, bastardized versions of Dominion gravity sling tech fused with Earth's chaotic approach to problem-solving. The Zoral referred to them as ghost burners. They didn't appear on sensors until they were already disassembling your fleet. Earth's fleet hit 3 border systems in 72 hours. They didn't destroy. They disabled. Precision strikes, non-lethal EMPs, infrastructure shutdowns. A message wrapped in restraint. Still, the results were devastating. Entire garrisons surrendered before shots were fired, just from the announcement. This is the Earth Defense Force. This is your one chance to pick the winning side. Back on Crax Magna panic blooms. Dravik slammed his claws into the table. How are they advancing so quickly? Our early warning arrays haven't detected anything. Gore stepped forward and pointed at the display. Because they're using our tech. Stealth tech. Reconfigured. They've turned our scanning systems into their camouflage. And you knew this? I helped invent it. They made it better. And then they used it against us. Supreme Commander Trazix, the eldest, finally broke his silence. This is not a species we can defeat conventionally. Dravik scoffed. You have us negotiate with apes? They stopped being apes when they cracked our encryption in 20 minutes, Trazix replied. And they stopped being primitives when they built a functioning interstellar navy out of junk and rage. A transmission request came in from Earth's flagship. The room fell silent. Only Ren would dare. The Supreme Council accepted. Ren appeared on the central holoscreen, arms folded, flanked by Reed and Dr. Patel, who was smiling politely the way scientists do before revealing they've broken the laws of physics for fun. "Supreme Commanders," Ren said, "let's skip the pretense. I'm not here to beg. I'm here to offer a chance." "You're in no position to demand terms," Dravik said. "You have a handful of ships." "We have your ships," Ren corrected, "and your blueprints, and your defense grid access codes. Wanting to prove it?" She tapped a button. A hologram flickered on beside her, a live feed of the Dominion's second-largest orbital shipyard. At that moment, every single Zoral ship in the facility powered down. Minimal damage. No casualties. "We just turned the lights off. Consider a demo." Dravik's mandibles clenched so hard one of them cracked. Ren raised a data pad. "Here are our non-negotiable terms. Immediate release of all 63 subjugated worlds. Establishment of a 5-light-year demilitarized buffer zone around Earth. Mutual technology sharing protocols weighted toward reconstruction, not domination. You apologize. Out loud. In writing. And no passive-aggressive phrasing. Dravik exploded. This is madness. Trazik simply asked, and if we decline? Ren smiled. Then the next message will be delivered by railgun. The Dominion came to Earth expecting an easy resource grab. Instead, they created a weaponized species of vengeance engineers with a gift for improvised warfare, sarcastic diplomacy, and turning trauma into strategy. Humanity wasn't just defending anymore. They were building something. Not an empire, not a conquest, but a galactic order with rules, balance, and most terrifyingly, human oversight. The galaxy had one question now. If this is how humans respond to an attack, what happens when they start planning? The transmission cut off. The Dominion's Supreme Council Chamber, once a stage for sweeping declarations and grand gestures of authority, was now oppressively silent. No one moved. Even the light from the great bioluminescent throne pillars seemed to dim, as if the room itself was holding its breath. For the first time in 7,000 cycles, the Zoral Dominion had been handed terms, not issued them. And worse, the terms came not from a rival empire, nor a galactic peer, but from a species that still used fossil fuels 3 months ago. Supreme Commander Dravik broke the silence, though not the tension. Unacceptable, he said, voice brittle with disbelief. We cannot concede to a race that, until recently, measured time and rotations of a rock around a gas giant. Trazik stared at him. That race now controls our orbital infrastructure, has reprogrammed our encryption, and could cripple our planetary defense grid without even sending a ship. But, Trazik's interrupted softly, they shut down Shipyard Permaxis in front of us. That facility was secured with Class 7 adaptive logic AI. They turned it off like a lamp. Gora stepped forward, uninvited, but no one stopped him. We taught them fear. They returned it, processed, refined, and paired with railguns. The internal debate was war or survival. For several agonizing minutes, the Supreme Commanders devolved into hushed, frantic argument. They're bluffing. That was not a bluff. That was an opening act. They've struck 6 systems without loss. But they haven't targeted civilians. Yet, Gorath finally spoke. They're not here to destroy us. If they were, we wouldn't be having this conversation. They are here to win, said Yulkura, stepping into the chamber with a datapad. And they already have. She placed the pad on the central platform. It projected a galaxy map. Flashing red markers indicated Dominion outposts, now invisible. Not destroyed, but digitally disabled. Their defenses offline. Their supply lines hijacked. Their soldiers peacefully surrendering to humans carrying weapons made out of spare engine parts and jokes. Dravik's voice cracked. What is this? Phase 2, Yulkara replied. Earth's fleet isn't conquering. It's disrupting. And every system they hit begins to question us. They're not fighting us, Gorath added. They're replacing us. Trazix rose. His gaze swept over the chamber. It's over. We lost. Dravik glared. You would surrender the Dominion? I would preserve it. As something better. Another Supreme Commander tried to protest, but the chamber's main console beeped. Incoming transmission. Earth flagship, live. The Council, defeated but still proud, straightened themselves. Admiral Wren appeared. No fanfare. No dramatic entrance. Just her a cup of coffee and a galaxy map behind her blinking like it owed her money. We gave you an hour, she said. That was 73 minutes ago. Do you have an answer? Trazix nodded. We accept your terms. Wren didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She nodded back. Understood. Stand by for mutual demilitarization protocols. We'll be transmitting reconstruction blueprints. Also, we've compiled a list of your more violent governance practices. Might want to workshop those. Dravik hesitated. We expected you to destroy us. Wren finally gave a tight smile. We considered it. But then we remembered, we're not you. 6 months later, the galactic capital of the new galactic cooperative was located on Terminus Prime, a neutral planet chosen for its strategic location and lack of anything interesting enough to fight over. The Grand Chamber was enormous, an amphitheater of crystal and alloy, designed by 12 species who still didn't trust each other, but now shared committees, pizza, and gripes about human metaphors. At its center stood the cooperative council table, a perfect circle of forged metal embedded with fragments of every freed world soil. Symbols of peace, symbols of resilience, symbols of please let this never happen again. And, sitting comfortably at the head of the table, a human, Admiral Wren, now Ambassador Wren, sipped her tea as representatives from 90 planets took their seats. Nearby, Gorith stood beside her, no longer in armor, but in a modest diplomat's robe. "You humans are confounding," he said quietly. "That's the nicest thing anyone said to us this week," she replied. "They feared you would dominate. Some still do. Yet here you are, sharing power, not taking it. We didn't want an empire," she said. "We wanted insurance." On Crax Magna, the old war banners were taken down. New signage appeared. Zoral Provisional Coalition member, proudly learning to share. It was a work in progress. Many Dominion citizens had trouble adjusting. The concept of negotiation was as alien to them as Earth sitcoms, which, by the way, now aired everywhere in syndication. But there were small victories. Zoral youth were now attending human universities. Joint research stations opened above neutral moons. And somewhere, on the bridge of a human patrol ship, a Dominion engineer was learning the difference between sarcasm, satire, and sincerity, and how, with humans, they were often the same thing. At the first session of the Galactic Cooperative, Ambassador Wren stepped to the podium. No weapon, no fleet, just a voice amplified across the stars. 3 months ago, my world stood alone. We were fractured, suspicious of each other, and unsure of our future. Then the Dominion came. A hush swept the chamber. They came with demands, with threats, with war. She looked up, and we said no. A pause. We didn't just resist, we rebuilt. We didn't just fight, we learned. And we didn't just survive, we changed. She gestured to the crowd. And now so have you. Applause erupted. Even the Zoral clapped. Badly, but they were trying. In the end, the Zoral Dominion got what it wanted. Not QX9, not planetary conquest, but something far more valuable. A front row seat to humanity's definition of a measure response. The lesson? Don't mess with a species that treats imminent extinction as an excuse to build a better navy, reinvent sarcasm as a weapon, and organize a peace conference while reverse engineering your flagship. The galaxy would never be the same again. And Earth? Earth had joined the galactic stage not as a junior member, but as the one phrase now etched into every Zoral War manual. Caution, do not engage. Species shows signs of excessive creativity, vindictive tenacity, and the ability to smile while dismantling you.